Good morning, good evening, good day, and welcome to Drama Buds. I'm Francine, I really love K-dramas, and I'm going to spend as much time as I want talking about them. Welcome to my podcast. So, hello everyone. Our show for today. Well, okay, it's been a while since I've seen a premise as unique and as good as the premise of this show. So, of course, today we're talking about Signal, the K-drama from 2016. So why did I end up watching this show? Once again, a little background on me. Right, so if you've listened to any of my other podcast episodes, you know I'm obsessed with Miss Sane, right? That's pretty much my number one favorite K-drama of all time. And of course, usual, I'm following the director of Miss Sane around, Kim Won-suk. He also directed Miss Sane, My Mister, and Arthur Chronicles, which I'm still currently watching. And I also kind of love it. So it was just natural for me to start watching Signal. I mean, I've heard so many good things about it. And even after I heard so many good things about it, when I actually looked it up, apparently this was directed by Kim Won-suk and written by Kim Un-hee, the writer of Kingdom, which just tells me that this is probably going to be really intense, kind of insane, but really, really good. And you know what? When I saw the awards that it won in the Baeksang Arts Awards that year, my goodness, Best Drama, Best Screenplay for Kim Un-hee, and Best Actress for my queen, Kim Ye-soo. What? I mean, Kim Won-suk should have won Best Director this year. I will talk about that later. He's a genius. But this was the year of Reply 1988. And you know what? If he's going to lose to another director, I don't mind if it's Shin PD. Okay, it's fine. I respect the decision. But this show was also amazingly directed. We'll get to that later. So what is Signal all about? Essentially, a police profiler finds an old walkie-talkie that can communicate with a detective from the 90s at a specific time in the day. And they help each other solve cold cases from the past and change the past and the future in turn. Sounds simple. No, it does not at all sound simple. Okay. All right. Let's start with the characters. First, we start with Park Hae-young, played by Lee Jae-hoon. So, Hae-young is a police profiler in a patrol division, just like a local station. And like, as an individual, he doesn't trust the police, but he's a cop. I mean, that's explained later in the show, but yeah, that's how he starts out. Like, he doesn't believe in the system. He doesn't really believe in who he's working with and what he's working for. But he's smart and he's determined to find the truth, whatever the truth may be. Like, whether it's about the cold cases that they're solving or the truth behind this walkie-talkie that, allows him to communicate with someone in the past. Get to that later. Sorry, jumping ahead of myself. So why doesn't he trust the police? Well, when he was a kid, around 15 years ago, a kid in his class was kidnapped when he was a child, and even if he kept telling the police, like, I saw who kidnapped her. It's a woman. The police kept insisting or revealing that the suspect was a man. Like, no, this is what happened, and they wouldn't listen to him because he was a child. And because they never listened to him, they never saw the suspect. He did. They never listened to him. And because of that, they never found the kid that was kidnapped. It's been 15 years, and they never found her. So one day, like out of nowhere, he finds an old walkie-talkie that was in the trash. And when he turned it on or started like listening to who was sending the transmission, it was Detective Lee Jae-han, who seems to be talking about that exact same case of the missing child, right? And so, Hae-young is confused, like, why are you talking about? Like, he doesn't know, why does this detective know me by name? And why are they talking about this case as if they're actively investigating it when it's been a cold case for 15 years? But, he listens to what Detective Lee Jae-han is saying, and then he follows the trail, and he ends up in a location where Lee Jae-han supposedly saw the corpse of the suspect in that kidnapping case. But when Hae-young looked at that location, it wasn't a corpse, it was a skeleton. So, he reported this to the police, and then it reopens the cold case right as the statute of limitations is about to expire. So at the time, it was 15 years after an incident. And so, many things happen, and eventually they catch the culprit in the nick of time, just when they exactly need to. So, after that, every time Hae-young receives transmissions, he talks to Lee Jae-han, and the past and the present, they start communicating with each other to either help Lee Jae-han change the past or to help Park Hae-young solve the case in the present day so that they can solve it as a cold case, at least if in the past, the forensics and the science wasn't as advanced and didn't have the technology, so maybe they wouldn't be able to solve it in their time, but in the present, that's when they can actually do something about it. And so, every time they change something in the past, of course, that has a butterfly effect and it affects the future. But, right before his eyes, pictures start to change, words scramble around, Park Hae-young is the only one who's able to remember the previous past. I mean, the previous present, before things changed in the past. And he's the only one who knows that there were other possible endings or other possible outcomes before they change things. And to others, it's as if this is how things always ended up. This is what happened in the past, quote unquote. Do you get me? Do you get my point? Basically, Park Hae-young is the only one who knows that something changed. There. Should have simplified it that way. Okay. So, next character is Detective Lee Jae-han, played by Cho Jin-woong. So, he's a detective from the 90s. He's stubborn, he's righteous, he's determined to find the truth. Similar to Park Hae-young, and that's why despite the confusion, they're able to work well together because they both just want to find the culprit and know what really happened in this case. So, Lee Jae-han is, in the 90s, he's working in a system in a society that's way more corrupt back then. Of course, not saying we're all good and righteous now, but, people are more exposed to the truth, I guess. Or maybe the corruption wasn't so deeply entrenched or whatever, or you know what I'm talking about. And in the present day, when Park Hae-young searches for Lee Jae-han, he's actually been declared missing for 15 years after being accused of corruption and taking bribes. And so knowing him as a person, knowing how righteous and upright he is as a person, it's what do you mean he's corrupt? He's a corrupt cop. So now, Park Hae-young is trying to piece together how and why he died to prevent him from meeting that fate again, when the next transmissions loop back to 1989. Because the first time that Park Hae-young received or found the walkie-talkie and talked to Jae-han, it was in the 2000s. That was the time for Jae-han. And then a second transmission came, and then the next time they talked, for some reason, it looped back to 1989. So because the Lee Jae-han, as Park Hae-young is talking to him, is in 1989, there's still time for him to prevent whatever is going to happen that will cause his disappearance or perhaps his death in the 2000s when he was confirmed to have been missing. You get me? It loops back, okay? The transmissions loop back there. And our last main character is Cha Soo-yoon, played by Kim Ye-soo. So, in the past, she's a new detective in Lee Jae-han's division, in the homicide division? I think so. Yeah, and so she's the first female detective, or first cop, I think, in their station. So, she had to deal with a lot of misogyny, the low-key and the high-key kind. And so, Lee Jae-han wasn't kind to her by any means, sure, but I think he respected her enough in a way, or just wanted her to prove herself, or didn't treat her any differently from the others, right? He didn't belittle her, nor did he like treat her like a princess or whatever. So, eventually she just started looking up to him, and eventually started having feelings for him. And 15 years later, she's still looking for Lee Jae-han's remains, right? So after solving that first kidnapping case, that first kidnapping cold case, she becomes the leader of the cold case squad. And so they solve cold cases that are somehow, all of them, the ones where they get big hints, or the ones that suddenly emerge again, they're all linked to Lee Jae-han, right? And so she grows suspicious of Park Hae-young's interest in, her old senior, Lee Jae-han, and all of his cases. And then when she finds out that it's Lee Jae-han's walkie-talkie, right? She sees the walkie-talkie. She sees that even if it's dead and old, like, it somehow lights up and still starts working. And that she can actually communicate with Lee Jae-han, her old senior who has been missing for 15 years in the past, using that walkie-talkie. She now joins Park Hae-young in finding a way to make Jae-han survive in the past and to change their future. Right? Okay. Let's stop there with all the plot and things, because it's a lot. A lot happens. I'm not sure if I fully understand everything, not going to lie. I think I do. I hope I do. But it's just a really worthy watch, and spoiling it would like ruin, like, it's really, really good. Okay, so thoughts. First, regarding the writing. Once again, this is like one of the best premises I've heard in K-dramas. Like, I've read the synopsis like months ago, like when I was just starting, and I've always wanted to watch it, but I don't know why I didn't watch it. I think my sister said she was bored. I don't know why. I understand actually at some points, but it was really, really good. And I think I really loved the case by case plot lines. It's very plot driven. Of course, it's a murder mystery type with some time loop aspects. It's plot driven, it's plot heavy, but it's like the actual stories and the emotional connections between the characters that makes it so engaging. Like, not just between among the main three, but like sometimes like the main three have connections with like the victims or even the culprits, and just it's just really like good emotional connections between the characters. Okay, and so like at the start, like the very first, the kidnapping case, so good, so intense, like perfectly paced. And then the middle cases honestly got boring. Okay, honestly, it did. And then, like, the actual cases themselves, like the plot of the show, started having more personal connections with like the main three. And then that's when it became really, really, really good, because it slowly builds up to the main conflict. Like the individual cases, they build up until we're now discussing like what actually happened to Lee Jae-han in the last case that he was investigating, that somehow has a personal connection to Park Hae-young when he was a kid at that time. So what exactly happened there, and how do all of these things build up to to eventually cause him to go missing or die? We don't even know yet, right? And so, like, actually coming from my Kingdom experience, because this is the same writer as Kingdom. Once again, if you don't know what Kingdom is, it's the zombie sagok show. It's pretty insane, but it's also very intense, right? But it's a zombie show. It's meant to be intense. I digress. Okay, so coming from my experience watching Kingdom. The thing is, the characters in Kingdom, to me, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't watching it properly, but for me, they're just plot vehicles. Like, they just have to survive. They just have to figure out, how do we stop the zombies? How do we kill the zombies? Or what is the evil minister? I don't know what Cho Hak-ju's actual position is. Like, but just the evil people in the palace. What are they really planning? What are they hiding? Things like that. It's more of like they just have to get the plot moving and to survive, the zombies. So I didn't really feel like I cared much about them as characters. Like, I just wanted them to survive. There, that's it. But now that I've watched Signal, I didn't believe entirely in this like writer's skill or ability to write characters well, but she's actually really good at writing characters, because I didn't think I'd be attached to them. But at the end of the show, I was really sad that it was over. Like, I was really sad that we didn't get to know what exactly happened at the ending of this show, which I will talk about later. But yeah, I still wanted more from their stories, right? And like, once again, the fact that for me, the plot lines are good, but they were boring when they were just mysteries, like for the sake of mysteries. But when they were mysteries that were connected to the characters, that's when it became really good. So it just tells me that the characters really add something to the plot, or like my connection with them and their connections with each other. That's what makes this show really good. I think that's what it means. I mean, okay, even though I praised the premise to the high heavens and stuff, honestly, the time loop is confusing. Like, I'm still debating, like, is it a multiverse? Like, okay, does this first transmission lead to a separate alternate universe, where that alternate universe, the next time that Park Hae-young starts talking to Lee Jae-han, will it create a new past in that alternate universe, and therefore does it loop back to another universe every time they reach that final transmission? I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Maybe I just shouldn't. Maybe I should just accept what I'm watching. But yeah, I'm trying to read like theories on it to see if others understood it better than me, but apparently we are all confused. Perhaps we should just accept that this show is over and that we will not understand what happened, because there will never be a season 2. Okay. Yeah. The time loop stuff, it's confusing, and I'm sure there are plot holes somewhere, or like in many places, but it's either I didn't notice it because I wasn't watching properly, or I didn't notice it because I wasn't thinking hard enough. And perhaps I should not think, because I will not be able to answer my own questions if I start thinking. Okay, now let's move on to the characters. Alright. Park Hae-young. He reminds me of Kang Dong-ju from Dr. Romantic. And if you listen to my Dr. Romantic episode or my year-end recap of 2020, I hated that guy. He's like one of my least favorite male protagonists ever. I hate him so much. He's so annoying. He's stubborn, he's defiant, he's arrogant. He doesn't know when to just shut up. And like Park Hae-young is similar to that. Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, once again, I understood him as a character. And it makes sense that he's so hard-headed and he trusts no one because he doesn't trust the police. Like, okay, his motivations and his actions, I guess, are kind of well explained. That's why I forgive it, right? And it's okay. He's smart enough. He does something. He helps out, you know? He has a big contribution to the team and to solving the cold cases and everything. So it's okay that he is the way he is, I guess. Lee Jae-han, he was also headstrong, but I understood him. Like, I love one of the scenes, I think in the second case, I love the part where he said to Park Hae-young while they were talking on the walkie-talkie that, you know, to Park Hae-young, like, these victims, these people, they're just names, they're just pictures, they're just info in a report. But to him, to Lee Jae-han, they're people he knew, or people that he saw, or bodies that he saw. They're real to him. This is his present, right? That's why it's hard for him to deal with this, to like just move on and just keep trying to solve the cases. And that was a really good moment. And I don't know, I do like how like upright he is as a person, even though he's kind of dramatic at some points. Like, okay, but I respect that he's trying to be the good cop among all the bad cops. I didn't like how he treated Cha Soo-yoon, okay? Like, he didn't give her, you know, special treatment. Yeah, I mentioned this. He didn't give her special treatment or whatever, yeah. But he also didn't belittle her for being a woman. So I respect that, yeah. And so, I don't know, I guess I just didn't entirely understand why exactly she fell for him. But for me, with how I saw her, like as a young detective, like I think I thought her feelings for him were not romantic. It was mostly just like admiration and like looking up to someone who, despite not really being the kindest person to you, he still gave her a chance and he still tried to help her. Like he was the one, teaching her how to drive, or like dealing with all the crap from the other officers who were treating her like a joke or like a mascot. Like when the chief was making her prepare coffee and serving it to their guest, or another chief or someone from the police, a higher up, I guess, like, treating her essentially as like a mascot or a servant. That doesn't sound nice. Like, it was Lee Jae-hyun who stepped in and said, no, like anyone can serve coffee. Anyone can do that. Why does it have to be her when she's working, when she's actually doing something? Why does she have to be in full uniform just to do it? Like, why are you treating her like a mascot or something? You get the point, right? Like, I respect that. In some ways, he did respect her the most in that station. But yeah, the romantic feelings, I wasn't completely sold. But okay, I'll talk more about that later. Talking about Cha Soo-yun though, she's the best. I love her. And it's not just my Kim Ye-soo bias, which I will talk about later. I really do love Cha Soo-yun. Like, just seeing the difference between her, her naive young self, and then like this hardened but like upright and still determined present self. Like, she's completely transformed. Of course, in 15 years, you should change. But it's just the contrast of it. Because she's the only character that we really get to see in the past and present, like almost consistently. And so just like the juxtaposition of her in the past and present is just really wonderful to watch. And like now she's logical and she's careful because she's learned from her mistakes in the past. And she's also like brought with her to the present, like this upright, this determined nature from, the senior, the detective that she looked up to the most. And I love that. One of the best cases in this show was when Cha Soo-yun in the past almost became a victim because she put herself out there as bait for this serial killer abductor, right? And so it was just amazing, like seeing how the trauma from that incident still affected her because they were solving it as a cold case in the present. It was just gripping. And in the past, like you could see how this was just an important point in her career where Lee Jae-hyun helped her find like the determination that she needed to continue being a cop, right? It like in this moment, I kind of understand why she developed feelings for him because like in this incident, she found like the strong motivation to continue in her career, and she found like something that really tied her, or like a really special moment between her and Lee Jae-hyun, and like the continuation of her career is thanks to his words and his actions to her at that time. And when she was about to die, like he was the one who found her, right? And eventually he was the one who solved the case in the when he was able to change the past by solving the case immediately. So yeah, it was just a really, really good case. That's my favorite one, honestly. Next thing I'll discuss is the acting. Let's just skip over Lee Jae-hyun and Cho Jin-woo because I don't have a lot of comments about them. I think they delivered like the intensity of the show and like the emotions of their characters pretty well, yeah. However, Kim Ye-soo is my queen. She is my queen. Okay, in the entire story arc where she was almost like a victim, her acting was top notch. It was amazing. Like she portrayed, vulnerability and fear so well, and like everything. Like she even delivered like the young, naive, like puppy love, vibes between her and Lee Jae-hyun in the past, and then in the future or in the present, she was also able to portray like the desperation to find him and the pain of being left behind. Like she did just Like the fact that it almost felt like a dual role at this point. It was just so amazing. She deserves Best Actress for this role. Like that's all I have to say. You have to watch this show to really understand like why Kim Ye-soo is a great actress. I need to watch more of her movies. I just love Kim Ye-soo so much. She's a top class actress for me. You have to watch that case to understand why she is so good as an actress. I swear. And so, last big portion is, of course, the directing. I have to mention it. Because I just think, like, sometimes I don't understand really what does a director add to the show if, like, the show we're watching is in the writing. No. Directing, I think I've mentioned this before, like, in my definition, directing includes, like, the editing, the music choice, and just essentially capturing the mood and the intensity of the show and delivering the intentions of the writer in what you're watching, right? And, like, what you're actually watching, like, the actual final product, not just the intentions or the thoughts behind it. Because some things are written in the script, but if you're unable to deliver it effectively, it doesn't come out like the way the writer wanted it, and it's up to the director to make that come to life. And so Kim Won-suk is my favorite director. Like, once again, missing my Mr. Artful Chronicles, and now this. Are you kidding me? Like 4 shows in a row that I really, really, really enjoyed and have a special place in my heart somehow. Really. Okay. So, as a crime show, it's intense. It should be intense. It's a mystery crime show with some time loop, confusion. You're supposed to deliver all of that. And it did. Like, okay, honestly, there were, yes, as I said, some boring parts in the middle, like the 3rd and 4th and 5th cases, I think. Like, but I think that's on me. That's my fault for not paying attention, for being on my phone. And also, those cases were, like, less character-centric, and they focused more on, like, I guess, exploring the consequences of their actions and how changing the past can affect the future. And not just in, like, oh, we're gonna solve it, faster now, so there won't be any more victims or whatever. It's like, sometimes, yeah, you solved the case, you found the culprit, but it led to another victim or another crime somehow. Or, the point is, there are always consequences to your actions. And so, by saving one life, you might kill others. Who knows? Like, just, that's the point of those arcs, I guess. It was less on their personal journeys and the truth in their lives, and more of just, like, exploring the mechanics of what they're doing with this time loop communication thing to, like, the universe as a whole. However, in that aspect that I didn't like, I think that was more of a writing thing. So I won't entirely blame it on him. I think he portrayed that well enough. I think it's still pretty good. It just wasn't the best parts of the show for me. But in general, it's just really intense, and the mood was perfect for the show. It was intense when it had to be intense. It was sad when it had to be sad. It was so sad when it had to be so sad. It's actually quite a heavy show at times. I realize that now. But okay, I have to describe, like, my favorite scene in the entire show, I think. So in the second episode, like the start of the second episode, it opens with, like, them arresting the actual culprit of the kidnapping case, right? However, the statute of limitations is expiring in 10 minutes. And so, there is a literal 10-minute countdown in the bottom thirds of the screen, right? And I just double-checked it a few minutes ago, but it literally plays out in real time. Like, from the 10 minutes and 42 seconds when the countdown starts, 10 minutes and 42 seconds, like, pass in real time of the show. And that's when the countdown ends. So, you're on the edge of your seat, wanting to know if they'll get the confession by the end of the countdown. Right? Can you even imagine that? Like, sometimes they'll drag things out for, the dramatic, the intensity, or for the drama of the scene, right? But it's not just about the intensity or the drama. It's about the stakes. Because in 10 minutes, you will lose your chance to solve this case. Or like, you will lose your chance to indict. Is that the word? Just to find the culprit for this specific case. Even though you know it's the truth, you can't charge them with it because the statute of limitations has expired. Right? And so, it's as if you're in that interrogation room with the people, with the police. Like, you're in there with them, counting down the seconds for this 10-minute count, 10-minute deadline, because you have to get this confession immediately. That's genius, right? That's genius. I have not seen that in a K-drama elsewhere. I think, the closest I've seen with, shows using like real-time aspects is like in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, when they had an episode play out in real time where things were all happening at the same time, and it all happened within the span of 20 minutes, right? The 20-minute run. Oh my god, are these shows 20 minutes long? Am I going crazy? Are American sitcoms only like 20-30 minutes long? I'm sorry, I just have to go on a tangent here, but like, seeing as how I watch, K-dramas, which are like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, no, in one episode, and I binge it, and then you're telling me like sitcoms are only 20 minutes long? What? Sorry, I just had to talk about that. Like, just the thought of, this countdown of this interrogation scene was like half an episode of an entire sitcom episode. That's insane to me. I'm sorry, I went on a tangent. But as I mentioned, that's genius. I don't know if that's in the script. It may be in the script, but to deliver it perfectly and to not even make you realize that you're anticipating these 10 minutes with the police, that's crazy. That's genius. Oh, that was so good. That's just my favorite scene of all time. That's a little crazy. That's a bit much. But definitely in this show, that is my favorite scene. Okay, fine. Maybe the scene where they found Cha Soo-yoon when she was running away from her kidnapper, like the murderer. Yeah, maybe that was also another great scene. But that's more of an acting thing. But this is really like, this is some genius level directing right there. Okay. Another technical aspect I love about the show is, once again, the music. And like, okay, after 3 shows of this director in his specific style, I finally figured out why I love the music of Missing and My Mister and now Signal so much. So I also have to give credits to Kim Jun-sok and Park Sung-il, who also worked on the other 2, I think, as the musical composers. Okay, going back to the director. His style is very much show, don't tell, which is the most cliched like writing advice you could ever hear from anyone anywhere, right? So in writing, that's vague. Like, how do you show and not tell when your medium is literally words? Your medium is literally telling people what they should be seeing or thinking or imagining or saying, right? But in TV or in movies, I think you can take it literally. You can literally say show it and don't tell it, right? Show people feeling sad. Show people feeling lost and confused. Don't say that I'm sad, I'm lost, I'm confused, right? That's that you can take that literally, I think. So his style is very much show, don't tell. There's so much that, as as an impatient or easily bored watcher who's always on her phone and stuff, like, there are so many things that I probably missed because I wasn't watching properly and I was just like looking up every time like I heard them talking, which is a terrible practice because this show or this director style is not like that. You have to actually watch the show or you'll miss something. Okay, that's my fault. But my point is, his style has a lot of silences because he's showing so much. And oftentimes, those silences are in like contemplative, reflective moments, like emotionally charged moments. And in those like silences in the characters, he fills it with music. And so music in like TV shows or in movies, like it's not just necessarily used to invoke like the feelings of being tense when there's like a fast beat or something, or feeling sad when there's, a sad piano, or warm when there's guitars or whatever. It's like, my point is, it's not just about like invoking a specific feeling, right? There's like this concept of like musical themes, which is melodies or just music that kind of represent a character or is played when the scene is emphasizing a certain character or a certain relationship. And I usually see that in movies or video games, especially video games, because like you spend a lot of time in it, you spend a lot of time playing a game, and like when you see a character, or when a character feels a certain thing, or when they're experiencing triumph or defeat, like it's often the same kind of melody but played in different ways or in different keys to portray that this is a good moment. So it's usually major key, or like a really sad, or like the lowest, the darkest moment of the character, which is usually it's in minor key. Hey, I'm not a music person. I'm not actually a music person. I'm not also necessarily a TV film person. So I'm just basing this off like my Google learnings and my personal experience. Okay, don't credit me on this. So essentially, hearing like the same background music when a scene is focusing on a certain character or relationship creates this like mental association. And so if you've noticed, I've been playing music for a while now, and that song or that background music is Long Lost Love, which I noticed was always being played in Cha Soo-yoon and Lee Jae-han's like scenes, like not their individual scenes, but when it's one of them thinking about the other. Usually it's Cha Soo-yoon thinking about Lee Jae-han in the future, right? So when I observed that a scene was focusing on their relationship, I started to anticipate this piano melody. Like I knew exactly that this song was going to start playing. And so hearing the melody reminds me of them, and seeing them reminds me of this melody. And it's just such an effective musical theme because it's already built that association with me as a reader. Sorry, not as a reader, as a watcher. Yes, because I noticed that there was a theme. I noticed that there was like similar music being played every single time they had like a moment or they were thinking about each other. That's crazy. I didn't even notice that until I realized that I was already anticipating this specific song. That's insane. And so I realized that this similar style of like having silences and then in an emotionally charged moment or a contemplative moment, and then having like the specific song, the specific background music playing there to associate with, usually it's the protagonist, or usually it's the protagonist. But whenever that happens, or I remember in My Mister, I didn't talk about this in my Mister podcast, if you've listened to that, because I didn't realize it, but there's this specific song called My Family. I won't play it now. My Family, that plays every time Park Dong-hoon is thinking about his family or with his family, right? I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. But when I was listening to the background music of My Mister, randomly just to be sad, I realized like, oh, I know this melody. I feel sad when I think about it, when I listen to it, but I know this song. And so, that's so good. Like, I just realized that I was watching Signal, that this director and the composers that he frequently works with, they effectively use musical themes to invoke these certain feelings and these associations with the characters. That's amazing. It's not just like it. Once again, I mentioned this in my 2020 recap, talking about my best OSTs. There are two types of OSTs. Some of them have like iconic songs that you want to listen to over and over again. And there are songs that capture the mood of the show and just have like, capture the mood of the show. I don't know where I was going with that. Signal didn't have like an iconic song, like let's say Tomorrow from Missing or Grown Ups in My Mister, but I guess since it's plot driven, it's okay because they don't have as many like contemplative moments as they did in Missing in My Mister. I just feel like there weren't a lot of moments when I heard actual OST songs with singers in this show, which is fine. I don't think it fits so well. And the music that was actually composed for this show, not just the background music, but the actual songs and lyrics, it has this really grungy, old-timey feeling, right? Yeah, once again, the music captures the mood of the show, and I don't know, I'm just a big fan of I'm a big fan of like musical scoring. So yeah, excellent. And I think that is the director's touch. So, now we're talking about the ending. And you know what? As I was watching the ending, I realized, yes, I understand everyone who wants a second season for this show. I'm not saying the ending was necessarily terrible. I'm just saying, like, it left me confused instead of satisfied. Right? It's like there were so many plot points. Like, there was so much confusion. Like, I don't understand exactly what happened. And once again, this is bringing back my concerns of, like, not concerns, but my thoughts of, is this a time loop? Is this the multiverse? What exactly happened? What timeline are we? So are they aware that things changed because they were aware that you could change the past? What? And should I even spoil this? Okay, I guess you made it this far, so you might as well know what exactly happens in the ending. With Lee Jae-han, like, waking up in a hospital, apparently in present day, still holding that walkie-talkie, and with it being live and, like, transmitting to someone, is it transmitting to someone in the future or someone in the past? Who is he talking to if it's in the past? Is he still talking to his past self who has that walkie-talkie? If he's talking to the future, what? Who's going to have this in the future? So, yeah, it's a little messy. I gotta admit, it is pretty messy. And I don't completely understand it. And I don't think it's my fault that I don't understand it. I think it is a common sentiment that we do not understand what just went on. And so I understand why people want a season 2 so badly. But I don't think it's ever gonna happen. I think they've left this show far, far behind by now. I mean, Kim Eun-hee is very busy with, like, Kingdom and now Jiri-san, which we will definitely watch. And then, Kim Won-suk, who knows what he's doing with his life. I hope he's, making another masterpiece somewhere out there. But they're definitely not revisiting this, which is sad because it's just excellent. It's really an excellent show. And, even if, I was confused instead of satisfied, I was still sad that it was over. So that must mean that I liked what I watched, right? That must be a good thing if I didn't want it to end. Like, not necessarily, I didn't want it to end like that, but I also kind of didn't want it to end, period. Like, I didn't expect that I would actually be attached to these characters. Like, not in the same way, like, I was wrecked, when My Mister and when Missing ended. Like, I was emotionally just distraught for a few days after that. Okay, yeah, that's a different kind of sadness. But this is more like, I think there is more story to tell. Or you should not have ended the story like this and left me wanting. Okay, but yeah. So I think this is still just absolutely a great watch. One of the best K-dramas in terms of, like, in terms of, like, plot and execution. I wouldn't, because, like, in terms of my rankings, I separated it into, like, my 2020 top 15 K-dramas and my 2021 top 15 K-dramas, because I think it's unfair. Like, my expectations in 2020 and my history, everything I've watched back then, is different from, my experiences and everything I've watched and learned and realized I liked in the next year. Like, my tastes could change. And so I want my ranking to reflect, just my tastes for that specific year. So I won't insert it anywhere in my top 15 for the past year, but definitely still in my top 5 as of now. I've only finished, like, 2 K-dramas this year, but yeah, I really do think this is still an excellent show. And the fact that it's still holds up, that it's still as good, 4 years later. And I think, still people are still talking about it, I guess. Like, not as intensely as other shows, of course, but I think it's made its impact. Yeah, it's one of the best K-dramas in terms of plot and execution. It balances like the intensity of, that it's a crime drama, and it also balances that with like the deep emotions and like emotional connections of the characters to each other. I think it balances that really well. And so that's why I personally was still somehow invested in the characters and their relationships, despite this being a plot-heavy drama. So yeah, the show is great. I still highly recommend it to pretty much anyone who wants like a good, intense, kinda sad K-drama. That's it for me. Thank you so much for listening to this. Looking forward to more in the future. Hopefully, I will find a show as good as this soon. I feel like I will be in a K-drama slump very, very soon. So, yeah. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you soon.